Okay, so a guy walks into a talent agency. He says to the agent, "Good afternoon. If I could just have a few minutes of your time, I'd like to tell you about the act my family and I perform. We're seeking representation and would love for you to sign us." Then the agent says, "Okay, tell me about it." So the guy says, "First, I come out and tell the audience that we're going to dazzle them with our combination of stage spectacle and traditional family values. My family has passed this act down from generation to generation. We don't know how all of us get the ability to do the act. It must be in the genes, just human nature." Now, growing up doing this act with my own parents, I knew what it would take to keep going. And that's why I married my wife. She was the first woman who I found who was willing to completely subvert her own hopes and dreams, as any good woman should, to help my family's act go on. Now, before your very eyes, Mom will work miracles in 20 minutes. I wheel out a big cart. It's got all our dirty laundry, our dirty dishes, and a kitchenette. I then sit in a comfy recliner while Mom scrubs the dishes clean, washes my underwear, and then prepares a wonderful meal made of processed, genetically modified food. As all our kids come out to eat the meal, Mom kicks back a fifth of gin. I don't know why she needs the drink when she's so lucky to be such an esteemed member of this wonderful family, but it usually drives the crowd mad. Our 4-year-old daughter then takes center stage. She grabs a football and starts playing catch with our 10-year-old son, but we put a stop to that right away. We put her hair in a bonnet and give her a Barbie doll and tell her that one day she'll grow up to be as beautiful as Barbie if she behaves like the good little lady she's supposed to be. She wrestles her way out of her pretty dress to play with her brother again, but ha! We've made sure there's a leotard underneath. We command her to practice her ballet. And when she manages a graceful pirouette, the crowd goes wild. Something about the applause makes her cry and scream, "Oh, Daddy, make it stop," which makes no sense at all, since who wouldn't love the roar of the crowd? And since she looks like a precious little angel who one day grow up to do laundry and dishes and cooking to make her own family so happy. I send her off stage and focus on the boy, who's moved on from football to painting. He shows some pictures he's painted to the audience, who ooh and ah about how wonderful they are, and this makes him dance around with pride and show them off even more. I then tell him that dancing should be left to the girls, and I rip up the paintings, declaring that they're a waste of time since he'll never be able to do it for a living. At this point, we bring out a set of chairs, a clock, and a blackboard. I sit him down and tell the audience that we're now going to see a feat of great willpower as my son goes to the family school. He sits there silently for 45 minutes at a time before rotating to another chair and sitting silent again. While in each chair, he memorizes great quantities of trivia, such as the capitals of every country on earth and the exact dates of every historical event of the past 2 millennia. If he opens his mouth, we'll have him write, "I will not talk out of turn," on the board 100 times. After this, he cries, which counts as opening his mouth, so I hand him the chalk and he starts writing. But I don't know why he's upset when he's getting such a fabulous education that's preparing him so that one day he'll be a great office worker and make a nice, steady paycheck. Then our 16-year-old daughter comes out and sits in a chair. We wait to see what she'll do, but she does nothing. This display of ladylike behavior always gets a great round of applause. I then ask her what she'd like to do for us. And speaking, now that she's been spoken to, she says she doesn't want to do anything. I ask her if she has no ambition, and she says no, she just wants to hang out with her buddies and her boyfriend. I point out that she has had the privilege of our fine family education for many more years than her younger brother, that she's even closer to actually getting to laundry and dishes than her little sister. She should be ecstatic, but all she wants to do is have sex and party, which she's just too young to do anyway. It's as if she doesn't even appreciate all the work we've put into helping her grow up to be a decent young woman like her mother. I yell at her that she's ungrateful, and she just sits there silent for 45 minutes, at which point I praise her for at least having patience. Then we get a real treat. Out comes the family dog. Rover's a purebred hunting dog, but we don't do any hunting, so we just dress him up in a bonnet to match our little girls. But he's just as ungrateful and keeps trying to rip it off with his teeth. I ask him, "Don't you want to look good for the neighbors?" We finally take it off ourselves rather than see it torn up, and the crowd cheers that we saved the beautiful bonnet. We decide to show the crowd some nice tricks like sit and roll over, but by the time we get around to play dead, the dog just starts licking its genitals, and I won't stand for that. I remind him that he's a member of our family and must act the part. The dog finally plays dead, But then he growls and lunges at me, as if he'd forgotten all he'd learned at our family obedience training. Ungrateful creature. Then comes our oldest son. He tells the audience about how he'd been aimless and apathetic until he finally accepted his heritage. Now he is taking on the family act himself. His own wife brings out their infant daughter in a baby carriage. Carrying on our tradition, he tells the audience of his child's prodigious talent. He wakes her from her nap, and we hear her wail in a powerful, projecting voice. He tells the audience how they ignore her cries for her own good. We're so smart, making sure not to spoil her. Eventually, feeding time comes around, so we get out a nice bottle of formula, which the baby really goes for, which is good because her mom is on Prozac and can't breastfeed, which is probably all for the better anyway, since we want the baby to develop a nice, healthy separation from her parents, and how good could free food be anyway? This propels us to the finale. Mom comes out and drinks a dozen shots, while the 4-year-old cries plaintively during a moving ballet dance. The 10-year-old paints a brilliantly realistic picture of me with giant fangs and claws, and I send him off to his room. The dog pees on the 16-year-old's leg, but she doesn't even realize it because she's tried to OD on some Valium she found in her mom's purse. And all of this goes on over a steady background of incessant wailing from my beautiful granddaughter, who has just been adorned by her parents with her very own bonnet. I sing a rousing solo rendition of the Sister Sledge classic We Are Family, and then curtain. The agent is stunned. He says, "That's a hell of an act. What do you call it?" The guy says, "The Aristocrats." Then the agent says, "Eesh, I'll tell you, the way you guys treat each other, it's just a bit too harsh for my taste. I don't suppose you could tone it down a little? Maybe you could all just, say, shit on and fuck each other?"